Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir tout le monde. Thank you for joining us this evening for our first virtual town hall. Please note that simultaneous translation is available on this call. To access translation services, simply click on the interpretation button at the bottom of your screen. I am Sébastien Bezot, Director of Policy, Projects, and Media Relations of USJE, and I'll be your host. This evening, you will have the opportunity to listen directly from your national president and ask questions or provide feedback. If you already have questions in mind, feel free to type them right away in the Q&A section, or you can use your raise your hand function, which is also located down below. As such, our main presentation will be by David Neufeld, National President of USJE, followed by a quick round of questions and answers. Following that, you will have the opportunity to hear very briefly from USJE's management team, the Directors of Finance and Administration, Labor Relations, and finally, Policy Projects and Media Relation. We will end with a session of questions and answers. Let's begin by welcoming your national president, David Neufeld.
Hello, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to join us this evening. Welcome, everybody. Bienvenue tout le monde. I want to begin by acknowledging that although we are meeting virtually, we are meeting on Indigenous land that has been inhabited by Indigenous people for thousands of years. I am joining you from the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people, the territory where USJE's national office is located. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge and thank all of you for the immense work you do every day to keep Canadians safe. These last few years have been very exhausting, and you, our members, have continued to show incredible dedication to the safety of Canadians. Thank you. And to those who contribute to your locals, I want to say a particular thank you. You are the core of our efforts to make our workplaces safer and healthier. And to those of you who are considering getting involved with your local, I entirely recommend it. It's challenging, yes, but you'll develop skills and friendships, all while making important gains for our members. I also want to thank our excellent national executive with whom I work. You show up every day fighting for our members, and I am proud of what we are accomplishing together. And last, but certainly not least, I want to recognize our staff. They play an important role in what we are achieving together, and we couldn't do it without them, including this town hall. So to all the staff on the call and to those not on the call, thank you. So in regards to my presentation today, I'm going to take a few minutes to look at 5 key areas of our work, namely our strategic plan, our priorities, our upcoming events, our member engagement plan, and our mobilization activities. After that, our directors will each say a few words, and then I will look forward to hearing your thoughts, questions, and comments. So to begin, I'll look at our strategic plan. In December 2021, our newly elected national executive met to create our 2021 to 2023 strategic plan. It focuses on achieving gains for our members in these 5 priority areas: the new normal, national presumptive injury legislation, increased union communications, new internal grievance processes, and focused political action. So to dig a little deeper concerning our priorities, we'll look at them one by one. Firstly, I'll look at the new normal. Our objective is to ensure USJE is involved in defining the new normal with and for our members. To that end, we undertook a survey of our members in early 2022, the results of which were clear. 90% of respondents indicate that they are successful in meeting their work objectives while working from home. Based on these findings, we are fighting so that members in all departments who want to have the opportunity of a hybrid working arrangement. Second of all, national presumptive injury legislation. Our objective on this file is that our members who struggle with psychological injuries or exposure to vicarious trauma due to their work must be included in this legislation. To that end, we launched 2 key studies in partnership with Dr. Rose Retrodelli, one that focuses on the difficulties that face RCMP detachment services assistants, and another focusing on the constant challenges of CSE's parole officers. USJE's Health and Safety Committee is presently hard at work developing this campaign, which will fight for presumptive injury legislation that covers all public safety and justice employees. We look forward to launching this campaign in the coming months. Thirdly, in increasing union communications. I wonder if any of you have noticed an increase in our union communications over the past number of months. Since December, we have instituted a regular USJE newsletter, increased our social media presence, updated our Keeping Canadians Safe website, launched 2 letter writing campaigns, and have offered regular communication support to our elected officials. In addition, this June, we'll be launching an app designed for local executive members, which Seb will speak to during this presentation. Another priority for us is our internal grievance handling process. Early this year, we instituted a USJE committee, which is already hard at work, looking at how we can improve our grievance handling processes. This committee will be making recommendations which we expect to begin implementing in 2023. The last priority that I would like to speak with you about is our commitment to focused political action. When I was elected, I committed to increasing our political action so that USJE can make the necessary gains for our members. I immediately instituted a USJE Political Action Committee, which is laser focused on the House of Commons Public Safety Committee. We have identified key committee members and are determining which USJE representatives will be meeting with these parliamentarians to advocate on our members' behalf. In addition, a number of our RCMP detachment services assistants will be meeting with their MLAs to bring focus to the issues raised in USJE's report entitled The Mental Well-Being of Detachment Services Assistants in the RCMP. They will be impressing upon these members of parliament that detachment services assistants require a national training program, bulletproof glass at public-facing workspaces, and inclusion in critical incident debriefs, access to mental health supports that better reflects the needs and experiences of detachment services assistants. In regards to key political action, I also want to mention that a few weeks ago, I met face-to-face with Federal Minister of Public Safety, Mr. Marco Mendicino. We had a very productive discussion about a number of the priorities I'm outlining today, and the minister took a keen interest in the work of our members and in ongoing dialogue with USJE. In fact, his office has recently followed up on some of our crucial points and will be meeting further with members of his staff. I will continue to update and work with the minister on key issues of importance to our members. I will just take a moment to mention the important donations also that USJE has made this past year as a union to a community food center in Iqaluit, to the BC Red Cross and Lytton, BC, and regarding flooding and mudslides, and to the QP New Brunswick Strike Fund. You can find out additional information on our website, and I'll also mention that you can find out additional information on our website. I also want to mention the important impacts our community initiative is creating across Canada. This initiative invests in local community development projects, building safer and stronger neighborhoods across Canada. Last year, we funded the following projects: Miramichi Youth House, Youth Diversion Program, the Bear Clan Patrol, and Yale First Nation. I look forward to knowing which valuable projects we will contribute to this year. As to upcoming USJE events, we are presently planning the following events. First of all, our National Local Presidents Meeting, our regional conferences, our National Equity Conference, and our National Triennial Convention. So I'll take a look at them one by one. Our National Local Presidents Meeting will take place in June of 2022 in Ottawa. During this meeting, we will review and discuss our progress and vision to date, as well as plan for increased USJE mobilization and member engagement. In addition, we'll be working with a graphic visual artist to develop a poster ad campaign explaining how our members keep Canadians safe. In terms of our regional conferences, they will happen in the fall of 2022. These meetings will be held in each of our regions across the country and will offer members training, as well as the opportunity to discuss and propose collective bargaining demands. Then our first ever USJE Equity Conference will take place in January of 2023. This conference will focus on how our union can be more inclusive of all USJE members. More information will be shared within the coming months. And finally, our National Triennial Convention will happen in Whistler, British Columbia in July of 2023. This is where the USJE delegates will debate and vote on amendments to our bylaws and regulations and on our 3-year budget. In addition, delegates will also elect a national president, a national vice president, and the regional vice presidents. Lastly, I want to speak about 2 other priorities. During our USJE National Local Presidents meeting in June, USJE representatives will work to create a dynamic membership engagement plan. We know that COVID has changed how we live and work, not only in our home and workplaces, but also in our union. We want to make sure that we are building a dynamic union for today and the future, in which our members want to participate. I'm really looking forward to working with our local presidents from across the country and members of our equity committee to define this plan and then to put it into action. And this leads me to the other priority. USJE is committed to supporting increased activism amongst our membership. To that end, our mobilization committee has been very busy with organizing information pickets in all regions across the country. This committee is also preparing upcoming mobilization activities that will be taking place at the National Local Presidents meeting in support of collective bargaining. As you can see, it's been a very busy 6 months, but friends, I enjoy every single moment. Working as your national president, it's a true honor and a privilege to do what I do. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. I always appreciate input from our members. Back to you, Sebastien.
Thank you very much, David. At this point, I'll take a few questions before we move on to the director's report. I do see that a few of you have already submitted questions, which is really appreciated. So I'll just take a few right now, and then we will have a more comprehensive questions and answers session at the end. About the PO workload, I do have a question from Morgan. Will USJE also be addressing high PO workloads for other intake units, or is it just Joyceville?
So thank you for the question, Morgan. So the issue of parole officer workload when we're talking about intake is not specific to Joyceville Institution. What I will say about Joyceville Institution is that it's a very unique situation that has been going on for 6 years. They call it a pilot project in the Correctional Service of Canada, but we say 6 years is far too long. The way that they do the work at Joyceville in particular is done differently than other intakes across the country. They have members of ours that are parole officers that are doing not only the intake reports, but they're also managing cases within the institution and their progress. So that's one of the reasons why we've raised that one in particular. But what I will say is that we're going to continue to advocate that the Correctional Service of Canada must put into place resource tools that make sense, that provide more time for parole officers to do the work that they do. And that includes, again, all institutions, community parole offices, and community correctional centers.
Thank you very much, David. Another question that came in from Valda. Can you provide an update as to what USJE is doing to protect jobs of our members employed by the RCMP, where the Alberta government is actively exploring the establishment of a provincial police force?
So this particular campaign began in middle to late of January of 2022. Jason Kenney, who's the Premier of Alberta, has been discussing for quite some time now about the potential of going to a provincial police force. And so we began a campaign in January of 2022 where we started to collect information from our members in terms of what they were hearing about these potential changes in the province of Alberta. We conducted actually a virtual town hall with a number of members, and they gave us some very good feedback on how this would impact them and other members of the RCMP in Alberta. We also created a website specifically for this campaign. It's called albertansforrcmp.ca. We also conducted an email letter writing campaign, which was meant to be sent to the Premier, the leader of the NDP, and also local MLAs. And so far, we've had over 500 letters sent to amongst those individuals. So we're quite happy about that. We also ran a series of radio ads within the province. We've also ran some newspaper ads across the province as well. We've continued to have social media ads. We also had an op-ed who was written by Valda Behrens herself. We've also had a number of MLAs in the province of Alberta who have seen members of our union come and visit them and talk to them about the importance of keeping the RCMP in the province of Alberta. Upcoming, we also have a meeting with MLA Brian Jean in the province, and we're looking forward to that meeting as well. I should mention, we've also been working with the National Police Federation, who have also been running a campaign at the same time in terms of trying to keep the RCMP in Alberta. And I just want to say that there's been a lot of work done over the last 4 months or so on this campaign. And I just want to quickly acknowledge too that Valda Behrens, who is the RCMP RVP Justice, the RVP for RCMP Justice PPSC in Alberta, for all of her work in helping to coordinate, particularly the meetings with the MLAs in the province and taking numerous interviews with local media outlets as well. We've had quite a bit of media attention on this. And so I think we've been quite successful at getting our message out about the fact that it would not be wise for the province of Alberta, in our opinion, to go to a provincial police force.
Thank you, David. I do see that we have a question from Nicole, Louise, Laura, Morgan, as well as Raylene. So we will all get to you. And when anonymous, we'll get to you. I'll just take one more and then we'll continue with the presentation. And I think we had a technical difficulty where I think one of the technicians lost internet and they need me to make them host, but I can't find you in the attendee list. If you can raise your hand to stand out and I'll fix that for you. So one last question and we will get to the remaining ones. Based upon the tragic incident of a food services officer who was badly injured at Stony Mountain this past August, what is CSC doing to better protect food service officers across the country? Can you provide an update?
So this tragic incident happened last August at Stony Mountain Institution in August of 2021. It was very unfortunate that one of our members in the kitchen was violently assaulted with a broomstick. I can tell you that Brother Frank Jans had worked extremely hard to bring this issue forward on behalf of the local at Stony Mountain Institution and letting CSC know that they need to address the health and safety issues of those members at Stony Mountain. I know that Ann Kelly, the Commissioner of the Correctional Service of Canada's response was simply to have more contact with the victim, to have ongoing conversations. We honestly felt that that wasn't enough. Unfortunately, our members at Stony Mountain Institution had to file a 128 under the Canadian Labour Code, and an ESDC decision came back identifying that training was a top priority and needed to be fixed at Stony Mountain. And so what I will say, as a result of that tragic situation at Stony Mountain Institution, as an organization, we decided to take this particular issue and to apply it right across the country. I think the food service officers who work in our kitchens across the institutions and right across the country provide very critical work. We all know, for those who have worked in the correctional system, particularly in the institutions, if you don't have food and you don't have good food, it can cause a lot of problems. And so one of the things that we have been trying to highlight for the Correctional Service of Canada is that they need to increase the level of training that they're providing food service officers across the country. We conducted a survey with our food service officers back here in March of this past year. And what we learned is that the high percentage of members who have received virtually no training and no safety training. And much of the members that we have been talking to recently, even as last week, I was in Saskatoon. I was also at the Regional Psychiatric Center in Saskatoon. And everybody was telling me face to face that they literally get no training for many, many months and sometimes years. So we have been really focusing on the issues that our members brought forward in the survey. We also conducted 5 information pickets across the country back there in March. We went to Matsqui Institution, we went to Stony Mountain Institution, Collins Bay Institution, Saint-Anne-des-Plaines, and also Dorchester. Recently, both Brother Frank Jans and Sister Lorianne Wesselby, we've met with the Citizens Advisory Committee Chair, and we went through the issues that our members have identified in the kitchens. And we plan to meet with their national executive here in the month of June. I think it's in the middle of June. And in this presentation that we've been providing, we've not only been identifying the fact that training is required, we also want the Correctional Service of Canada to take a look at their staffing model. One of the things that was identified in our survey as well is that our members believe that it's important to increase the number of staff in the kitchen. And I will say that also another issue that continues to come up is to have more of a correctional officer presence as well in the kitchen as well. And so I'll just mention that. On May the 24th, I'm actually going to do a visit of Stony Mountain Institution with the chair of the Public Safety Committee. It's Member of Parliament Jim Carr. He happens to be from Winnipeg. So we will be taking him to Stony Mountain Institution and showing him the kitchen in which our member was violently assaulted. Another thing that's coming up here very quickly as well is we're going to have a meeting with the Correctional Service of Canada in the next week to discuss the results of our survey and to further push the Correctional Service of Canada to pay attention to this very important issue.
Thank you very much, David. So I'm really excited. We have a lot of questions, so we will have a good interactive Q&A at this end of the session. Keep those questions coming. Now, in the meantime, I'm going to ask our members in attendance one question. So basically, you've heard the priorities set out by the National Union. Which of this priority is most important to you? So I just launched a poll. You should be able to select. You have 5 options. So which priority is most important to you? The new normal, the national presumptive injury legislation, increased union communications, new internal grievance processes, or focused political action? So those are top 5 priorities of the union, and we just want to see from the members in attendance which one is most important to you. So I see a lot of responses coming in. We're halfway there. Even though I'm director of communications, I won't be offended that no one selected that option yet. It's because we're doing a good job. That's why we've increased. I'll be sharing some good positive data on what we've been improving in terms of communication with our members. 10 more seconds to vote. Okay, I see a few more votes coming in. Well, it's pretty split, so let's show the results with everyone. So it's pretty much the national presumptive injury legislation campaign that takes the first place, followed by the new normal and then grievances. Grievances are always important. So thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. So we're going to keep on with the presentations from the directors. At this point, I'll ask Christina Hatcher, who's our Director of Finance and Administration, to speak about the finances of the union. Christina?
Hi, everybody. So right now in the chat, I'm going to drop some documents that I'm going to be discussing today. Saying disk error. This worked perfectly, of course, when we practiced, but now I'm having some issues. Just one sec. I'll have to share the documents after this session with everyone because it seems as though I'm getting some sort of error message. But on with the show, right? Let's just, I have to reopen the document. I apologize to everyone for this. Okay, here we go. So good evening, brothers and sisters. I'm going to start by sharing I'm going to start by taking some time to thank you very much for attending this session. I will provide you with a short update on the USJE finances since convention. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christina Hatchard, and I've been the Director of Finance and Administration at USJE since 2015. Please bear with me. I know finances can sometimes be a little dry, to say the least, and I've tried my best to summarize the information I'm providing to you tonight. Should you have any questions at any time, please use the raise hand function. I guess on with the show. The first thing that we're going to look at is the budget after convention. I'm going to share my screen now. So the budget presented at convention was built using the last 3 years of financial operations from 2017 to 2019 and anticipating what sort of events may occur that would affect USJE operations for the next budgeting cycle of 2021 to 2023. The 2020 audited financial statements were not used in the production of the budget due to the fact that they were not representative of USJE's normal operations because of COVID-19. After much debate on the convention floor, the budget was passed. Having heard the members' request for additional transparency in regards to the national executive salary, I amended the financial statements so that to include a specific line dedicated to that expense. Then there were resolutions. After passing the budget, there were resolutions debated at convention floor that had financial implications. The resolutions with financial implications are as follows. Bylaw resolution number 14 carried at convention. We will track second level grievances expenses $62,500 a year for a total of $187,500. Bylaw resolution number 2 to pay shift premiums, $37,500. General resolution number 38, $7,778 to purchase carbon credits for convention 2023 travel. General resolution number 37, $232,866 was added for community initiatives. Bylaws resolution number 16, $6,000 of additional salary for national office staff to develop it and monitor a formal call out for exemplary service awards. After the addition of the resolutions to the budget, the final result was a dues decrease of 0.0257 from 0.7203 to 0.6946 per member per month for component dues. Next, we'll take a look at the operating budget. For 2021. So here in front of you, you have the 2021. Again, we saw many interruptions to the normal operations of the USJE National Office due to COVID-19. Therefore, many of the budgeted expenses, as you can see, were under budget, were unrealized, resulting in a positive variance before spending from reserves of approximately 2.7 million. From the budget to convention. Besides the pandemic, some other main contributors to the positive variance were the performance of the USJE investment portfolio, as well as unrealized expense inflation. Next, we need to take a look at the spending from reserves. So, additional spending outside of the budget to convention is proposed and approved by the National Executive. The spending comes out of reserves that the USJE has accumulated over the years. Spending in 2021 included wrap up of the 2017 to 2021 convention completion of the strategic plan of approximately $136,000. Then we had some spending on collective bargaining, approximately $14,000. COVID-19, including masks, awards, approximately $45,000. Convention caucus meetings, having delegates come to convention that day early to meet with their RVPs was a cost of $64,000. A donation to the Red Cross to support the Lighton BC floods, $10,000. The creation of an Indigenous fund of $500,000. None of this has actually been spent to date. Member donations of $750. Support of the QP New Brunswick strike, $5,000. A donation to the Red Cross for the residents affected by the BC floods, $20,000. Temporary residence assistant for the national president of $63,000 due to the shortness of the term. A strategic plan meeting to develop the 2021 to 2023 convention initiatives was approximately $112,000. And then the strategic plan the strategic plan 2 had spending of approximately $17,000. The total approved amount was $1.8 million to advance the initiatives of USJE. There was a donation towards the Iqaluit water crisis of $10,000. Relocation of the former USJE national president of approximately $40,000. So for total spending in 2021 was approximately $469,000 from reserves. This brought the positive variance to the budget of convention to approximately $2.2 million. At the end of 2021, there was approximately $2.5 million of approved spending that is remaining to be spent in the coming years. Thank you again for your attendance at this session this evening. Member involvement is always encouraged and appreciated. Should you at any time have any questions in regards to the finances, please contact me at the USJE finance email, and I will drop that into the chat right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. And just so that everyone knows, your members' dues are in good hands with Christina, because anytime we want to spend any dollar, we need her pre-approval, and she's got a very tight spring on that purse. So we're in good hands with Christina. So if
Thanks,
members have questions for Christina or any other directors, you'll have an opportunity to ask them at the end. Next up, about labor relations, the director, Rebecca Thompson. Rebecca, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. As Sebastian just said, I'm Rebecca Thompson. I'm the Director of Labor Relations here at USJE. I've been here for just over 2 years. Just demonstrates my great timing starting a new job at the start of a pandemic. As I'm sure you can guess, labor relations has been keeping extraordinarily busy between job description issues leading into the PA conversion, essential service agreement negotiations at Treasury Board, see the answers I typed in the Q&A, vaccine mandates and accommodations, and return to the new normal with the accompanying hybrid working arrangements. The past few years, and even more so the last few months since convention, have brought on a slew of new and novel challenges that my team has admirably risen to meet. We also continue to work on the ongoing labor relations issues that impact our membership every day. Between now and the next convention, we will continue this work, and we are also undertaking several ambitious new projects. We are doing education program review and revision. We are addressing grievance backlogs, and we are supporting the various campaigns being launched with strategic advice and subject matter expertise. 2 key activities which are ongoing, the first being essential service agreements, as people were asking. We are working diligently to get these done for all our departments. If you have questions, please speak to your RVP and they can connect with National Office. If and when, or if a strike situation becomes more likely, there will be training and information provided for those who are deemed essential as well as those on the line. We've completed most of the EB group agreements, a number of those for the TC groups, and we are working on SV. PA will be the last group addressed as it is the largest and most contentious, but Treasury Board has put in place some fairly strict timelines, and we will be working on that through the summer and into the fall to get those done. The second major ongoing project is the PA group structure review. Treasury Board is undertaking modernization of the classification standards for PA, which are older than I am. They date back to 1965 with the last major revisions in 1971. As part of that review, we have convened an occupational group structure committee who are working with labor relations to review new job descriptions for the positions in the PA group. We will be looking for feedback on the new proposed job descriptions, so if you are willing to assist in this important work, please let your RVP know very soon, and your input would be greatly appreciated. And that is about it from me. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have that do not relate to specific grievance files or individual labor relations matters, and thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and thank you for answering some of the questions that were already posed in the Q&A, and other people can see those. So finally, I'll provide you a quick update from the Department of Policy, Projects, and Media Relations, which I have the pleasure of being the director with my co-director, Nancy. So the Communications Department, as you can probably only imagine, we've been extremely busy with developing the campaigns. As David, our national president, outlined, there's quite a lot of priorities, and any priority that's outlined by the national executive and the national president, it means Communications Department has to produce some kind of product. For example, the RCMP campaign in Alberta, we had developed newspaper ads, radio ads, social media ads, a campaign website, and the address is albertansforrcmp.ca. And we also developed some lobby kits so we could provide information to our members when they went to lobby their MLA. So they were equipped with the proper tools. The parole officer campaign that David mentioned, we had to purchase a new tool called New Mode, and this tool makes it easy for us to create electronic petition, electronic email campaigns. Basically, type in your postal code and boom, a template letter is sent to your MLA, MP, or your employer, depending how we program the email campaign. And then we've done several surveys in terms of the new normal, how it's impacting you, USJE members, and how we can advocate on your behalf, and also for the Food Officer Safety Campaign. And now we're working towards the Presumptive Injury Campaign. And just today we finished like the draft of a new website. So we're really making strides in terms of that campaign as well. In addition to that, we've been sending regular updates to our members about every 2 to 3 weeks. Why every 2 to 3 weeks? Because we have enough content to share. If we have your personal email address, you've been receiving regular updates from your union. If you haven't seen anything, you might want to check your junk email folder in case it ended up there. And just as a point of information, normally for nonprofit organizations such as unions, when we send emails to our members, the average for the industry is only a 20% open rate, which means only 20% of people that receive the email will actually open and read your email. With us, we've got very good statistics where 50% of our recipients will open the communication that we send to them, which is very good. We keep noticing a steady improvement in our social media following. Just over the last 6 months, Facebook and Instagram, we've had fantastic increases across the board. We've had over 127% increase of new followers on our Facebook page. And on our USJE website, just as of January of this year, we've had over 18,000 different users visit the website with over 55,000 page views. Now, the most popular pages are, drumroll, grievance wording, which is good, media releases, local executive contacts, collective agreement. So basically, people come to our website to find out who they can reach out to when they need assistance and how they can represent themselves and defend themselves by looking for their collective agreement and grievance wording. We've also revamped our keepingcanadianssafe.ca website. This is a website that we share with elected officials in order to promote the work done by our members, how you USJE members keep Canadians safe. The USJE website is mostly for USJE audience when you want detailed information about your union. And finally, like David mentioned, we have developed a mobile app for regional vice presidents and local executive members as a trial phase, just to give it a trial run to see how it's going to be used and how we can better improve it. And the app will be launched in June at the National Local Presidents Meeting. So that was an exciting project. So those are just a few of the highlights of the work that's being done by the communications department. I want to thank every member of the team for their dedication to the union and the members that we proudly serve. We have now reached the last part of our virtual town hall where members can ask questions or share comments, and I've seen quite a few in the Q&A, so I'll go in there and see which ones we can answer. Let's see, we've got quite a few questions here. So about bargaining, I guess, David, you can get ready for this with Treasury Board bargaining. Looking at what percentage of pay increase and how many years for our upcoming contract. So right now, the Public Service Alliance of Canada, PSAC, is bargaining on our behalf, and USJE, we have members who are part of the bargaining team. So what are we looking at in terms of percentage for pay increase and for how many years will be the upcoming contract? So I'll wait for the tech to bring David there. Did you hear the question, David?
I did. I'm just making sure that my camera is actually working first before I start. Okay, you can see me. Okay. So in terms of collective bargaining, all reports that we've received thus far is that Treasury Board's entire offer has been extremely insulting. It's been a slap in the face to our members who have been delivering frontline services, obviously throughout the entire pandemic. We know that the cost of living continues to soar, and the government's asking for our workers to basically take a pay cut when they need a raise the most. The government also has some serious concessions on the table that impact our members' rights, including diminishing provisions around job security and their access to some leaves. We're trying to keep all of our options on the table, and we'll continue to escalate our actions across the country to reach a fair deal. In terms of the wages and inflation, the government is offering 1.5%, 2%, 1.75%, and 1.5% over a 4-year agreement, which averages to 1.75% per year from 2021 to 2025. And so what you're going to start to hear a lot of from the PSAC and from the components is that this is completely out of touch with soaring inflation across Canada. So I fully anticipate that we'll continue to try to work at the bargaining table. One of the questions I consistently get on visits across the country is, are we going to a strike situation? What I will tell you is that we have to be at that bargaining table, bargaining in good faith. But I can tell you at this point, the Treasury Board is simply not bargaining in good faith with what they put on the table thus far.
Thank you very much, David. We have two different members who asked kind of similar of the same question. So I'll try to do my best to merge them into one comprehensive question. Okay, good. So it's about the equity conference. They want to know what, well, I'll try to read part of one of the question. Can you please advise as to the cost of the equity conference and why it was not brought as a resolution to either the last convention or this upcoming convention, since it's only a year away? and where the funds for the equity conference is coming from, and who will be able to go to the equity conference and how will they be selected. So basically, any information you can provide about the equity conference, I think that will please two of our members. Please, David.
Okay. So in terms of the equity conference that is currently being looked at, scheduled for January of 2023, there was a motion that came to the national executive back in the end of February, beginning of March. The motion read such as there was a proposal that was attached and was identified as USJE Equity Conference. And in that particular proposal, it spoke about having a 4-day equity conference. And there was various goals that are trying to be achieved by having this conference. For those of you that are not aware, and hopefully you are, you will, at least if you were at convention last year, you will have seen members of our equity committee at convention. They also did a presentation on the very valuable work that they're doing. And this particular motion came through the national executive up from the equity committee, looking for support for an equity conference. I know that some people will say the PSAC has, work on equity being done. Why does USJE need to do that? I'll say that equity is important for every union. It's important for our union. It's important to make sure that we are reaching out to members of those equity groups and making sure that we're touching base with them, getting them engaged in our union and understanding their issues. So those were some of the reasons why an equity conference were deemed important, because we need to broaden the scope of our work with equity groups and connecting them across the country to better understand their issues. So I'm hoping I'm answering a bit of that, the lengthy question that I've been given. But in terms of the actual motion, the motion was given to the national executive. It did pass. The amount for a 4-day conference, I think that was one of my questions. Currently, because we are looking to schedule it in Winnipeg, again, in the middle of January, the cost is approximately $443,000. That's the cost that we're anticipating for this conference. And what I will say is that the equity group, the committee themselves are working extremely hard to get prepared for that conference. They're doing excellent work with a facilitator as well that's working with them and to help move the equity issues forward. I know that I've sat in a number of equity committee meetings. I see the hard work that they're doing in terms of determining how we can better represent members of equity across all the departments we represent. And I'll continue to be engaged in that committee as well as your national president. Seb, is there any questions I'm missing?
No, it was just basically, yeah, I tried to merge all of that together. I think they also wanted to know like who was going to get selected and when and whatnot, but that information will be shared in due time. I know a lot of on our website, I know a lot of information is being kind of decided right now. So a lot of details are being decided. So I think you basically provided all the information that we had at the present time. So
I'll just add a little bit, Seb, because I think what they're asking is how many people across the country would be going. The proposal that was put before the national executive was to have 5 equity members across the 6 regions. And then there would also be the members of the current equity committee. And also there's 2 regional vice presidents. I'll just mention that Sister Lynette Robinson and Sister Shauna Ward, who are chair and co-chair of the committee, they would also be in attendance. And it would be also open to regional vice presidents across the country to also attend. So according to the math that I have in front of me, I've written down approximately 52 people for that convention.
Okay, let's see. There's another question here, David. As a disabled member with significant accessibility issues, how can I learn more about the equity conference and determine if it'll be accessible to me?
So I know that the equity committee will be working on a plan around reaching out and selecting individuals for the conference. Some of these details are yet to be still worked out amongst the committee. So I do anticipate that that process will become clearer in the next couple of months. I know that in preparing for this equity conference that was approved, we've already had to take a look at booking it in the middle of January and making sure that we have the facilities to do that. So I do anticipate that there will be more information coming out shortly in terms of how people will be selected. And I anticipate that it'll be put out more broadly and people will be able to get engaged as well with the equity committee, particularly if they have an interest in coming to the conference.
Thank you. And I know in addition to that, we will be creating a section on our website for the equity committee where you will be able to see who is part of the equity committee, how you can contact them, and so on and so forth, and how you can get involved as well. And there's a member who's making a lot of comments about, I think, what is the vaccine mandate, but until I get a clear question, I can't put the question to you, David. So in the meantime, what is USJE doing to support their members with injuries from work? And how do they support them through the WCB process?
So in terms of how we are assisting members who have been, injured at work?
Yeah, injuries from work, and how can we support them through the Workers' Compensation Board process? So how do we support those members when they get injured at work and they have to go through the Workers' Compensation Board?
So what I will say is that we have obviously local and regional representatives within USJE that are there to help our members who are in those type of situations and to provide some guidance and assistance in terms of navigating processes. Some of our representatives will be very much aware that, there's EI sick benefits and there's also, of course, WCB. In terms of workers' compensation, because the legislation can be very different from province to province, we do rely on the Public Service Alliance of Canada and their regional representatives in those provinces to help those cases when it comes to applying for WCB, and in particularly as it relates to any type of appeal. They do help provide assistance with appeals. One of the things that I'll say in all the departments that we represent is that we try to also be very much engaged in the return to work or accommodation committees that are set up in the various departments. Not every department has them. I know that, for example, the Pro Board of Canada, when it came to setting up such a committee, they were rather reluctant to do that, but it's something that we continue to advocate for. So it is important that if people do need assistance, that they go to their local representatives who can also seek the assistance of their regional vice president. And we do have labor relations officers as well that can provide any advice around the process. But again, we really do rely on the Public Service Alliance of Canada in each individual province for handling these very specific cases.
Thank you, David. And I was able to get a question. It's about the vaccine policy. I guess this member wants to know why we're supporting the government's vaccine policy. That's out of all the interaction I was able to get, I think that's the best way I can formulate the question. So anything you can say about the vaccine policy, David?
Well, what I will say is that when the vaccine mandate came in last year, and obviously it became really truly effective in the middle of November, I know that as national president, we had discussions with the Correctional Service of Canada and the RCMP and others in relation to the mandate and what this would mean for our members. I know that the Public Service Alliance of Canada, which of course is our umbrella union, has really been setting the stage in terms of how we interact with the various government departments on this policy. Really, it is about health and safety. And I know that people are going to argue about whether vaccines are safe and effective to some degree. But what I will say is that it is important to make sure that our workplaces are as safe as possible. And the unions have come out very clearly that we do feel that they're safe and effective. But again, I think the question that's maybe being asked is what is being done for members who are currently on leave without pay. And as your national president, I'm very cognizant that we have members who are on leave without pay. And I can tell you that from my seat where I sit, when I go meet with the departments and we're talking about mitigation strategies moving forward, whether it's use of masks, washing hands, and so on, Of course, we continue to support all of that, but we also feel, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself as your national president, that it's important to take a look at where we're at in this pandemic. And, I've always said when people talk to me about this, I think Omicron was really the difference maker in this pandemic. We saw the spread of the virus happen far more and quicker than the Delta variant and the initial COVID-19 virus. And so what I will say is that we've seen provinces lifting the restrictions. I saw a number of the comments in the chat about, I can go to the gym. I can't remember all of them. There's quite a few comments. I can do all these things, but I can't go to work. And so I hope that you do know that the PSAC did file policy grievances around this. As early as December, there was a policy grievance around the mandate, specifically around those who can still work from home. And then, of course, more recently, the PSAC also filed a policy grievance, basically identifying that we believe that continuing to put unvaccinated employees on leave without pay is a harsh administrative measure that can be considered disciplinary and without just cause. So that was also filed. The other thing that we're waiting for is the 6-month review of the policy. We are still waiting for that. I do communicate with Chris Elward, the national president of the PSAC, quite regularly on this to obtain an update. I know that they have been very slow to come out, and we've heard nothing about any changes to the policy at this point. I think the reality, though, is that this country is still trying to grapple with what to do around COVID and how do we live in this new normal. So I just want to reassure you, the person that was asking those questions, that in our conversations, at least in the conversations I'm having, I am raising concerns about the fact that we have people still on leave without pay as we continue to move through this new normal. And understanding, of course, we need to make sure people are still, in my opinion, they still need to be doing those mitigation strategies that help keep people safe. And that includes washing your hands, wearing your masks, and so on.
Thank you, David. I think that probably answers the question. Do we know where PSAC is at with negotiating changes to our benefits? So we know, like, bargaining the collective agreement and bargaining for benefits, it's two separate processes. So we submitted demands for that several years ago, and I don't believe there has been an update. That was a member asking the question to Rebecca, and I see Rebecca's typing. So maybe, David, you want to add, and then maybe ask Rebecca if she has anything to add to that.
Sure. Yeah, you're right, Seb. So those negotiations, I believe, are still ongoing. But I think Rebecca might have some more information that she's trying to type in there. So maybe go to her and have her provide the latest that she understands about where specifically they're at in those negotiations.
Yeah, and we did get just a few comments. Thank you to you, David, and your entire team for all the work you do for us. So we're getting some positive feedback as well. There was a question that was answered, but I still want by a director, but I still want you to share your take, David, on how can we engage young workers into our union?
So again, the issue of member engagement is huge, not only for our union, but all the unions. And that's one of the reasons why we want to take some time. We're taking about 3.5 hours at our national local presidents meeting in June here in Ottawa with people from across the country, our local presidents and others, and also the members of the Equity Committee. And we are going to develop a plan together on how to reach not just those youth, but also to even anybody within our union. I think one of the things that we talk about a lot as a national executive around particularly the youth is giving them some of the history behind unions. I know that the word union, even in some provinces and for some people, it has a very specific disdain. But I think if people really understood the value of the union and what we do, I think that it is a potential to bring people in. I think it's important to be able to understand what their interests are. And I can tell you that a lot of people, when they get engaged, a lot of the times it's because they're in some sort of difficulty with the employer or with other individuals in the workplace. Maybe they're in conflict, and then they have to use a form of recourse. Those are oftentimes when people first get their first introduction. And that's why it's very important for us to continue to build strong locals with strong executive members who understand the role that the union plays in the workplace and how we advocate on behalf of our members. And so I think that as we move forward and we build that member engagement strategy in June, I think we will be talking about how to better engage those youth. I know when I talk to people who are under the age of 35, that's apparently considered young, I think that it's important to really understand, especially around the new normal. You know, a lot of people in those generations below my age, I'll be 50 years old next week, is that they want to have a work-life balance in their workplace. And they want to be able to, where they can, work in a hybrid work environment as well. So I think we're starting to reach out to some of those young people who are asking these questions about what the union's doing for them. And I think that's why it's important to find issues that matter to them.
Perfect. Thank you, David. I know we wanted to keep it close to an hour, and we've answered most of the questions we received, which is very appreciated. So I'll give you the final word of the evening.
Well, I want to say thank you to all of you again for taking the time to meet with me and the team here this evening. I know that you're very busy yourself and you have lots of other things to do, and you could have done something else this evening. I was joking the fact that we scheduled this on a night that there was no NHL hockey, and I don't know if that was purposeful or not. But what I will say is that we're all very busy. And the fact that you spent this time with us this evening means a lot to me. When I went to the last convention and I talked about having these national virtual meetings, the real purpose is to make sure that we give you an avenue to write to me, the national president, and to have these open discussions amongst all of us. Some of the questions are very difficult. And I'll just say the vaccine mandate is one of those difficult questions that I hope that I've answered to the best of my ability for all of you. I mean that very sincerely, that I want to be a national president that's very transparent on everything we're doing and to continually move the bar on what we're doing for our members. So I hope that you'll stay informed. You'll visit our website often, use the social media platforms we have in place. I would also ask that you share your personal emails with us so that we can send you information. And again, in terms of our member engagement strategy and what we're wanting to do there, we also want to build stronger locals across the country, because without strong locals, our union is weak. And we need to make sure that as we continue to move forward through this pandemic, that we continue to stand for health and safety of our members, that we continue to make sure that people are safe, and that their working environments will continue to improve. And with that, I just want to say thank you to all the staff that stayed on this evening to help me answer your questions, to provide the information. I know that this is a very unique venue, something that's never been done before, and I do plan to do it again later in November this year. So thank you so much for your time this evening, everyone. I appreciate it so much. We have another town hall tomorrow evening. We're doing it I think we're doing it earlier tomorrow because we're doing the East Coast. So I look forward to meeting with all those members tomorrow evening as well, and going through all the great work that all of us are doing together. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening.